what if the source of all your suffering, it isn't really the world around you at all, but maybe a voice inside your head?
Hmm.
And what if the key, to finding true freedom and peace, what if it's actually much simpler than you could ever imagine? Available not by striving for some future state, but in the very moment you are experiencing right now.
That's a powerful starting point.
Today, we are stepping into the world of Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. It's really transformative. Millions have found its ideas genuinely life-changing, and, well, we've spent some time with its core teachings.
We really wanted to pull out the most impactful insights for you.
Exactly. Our mission here is to quickly get to the heart of its central message, help you understand what makes it so, well, powerful.
And why so many people describe it that way.
Right. Now, before we really dive in, we should mention a resource you might find helpful.
Oh, yeah, good point.
On our YouTube channel, you can find Mindful Moments. It offers AI book analysis, and it's really designed to spark reflection, critical thinking.
It's another way to help you integrate potent ideas, like the ones we're talking about today, into your own understanding.
Okay, so let's unpack the fundamental problem the book identifies. This idea that most of us live almost entirely identified with our mind. What does that actually mean, identified with the mind?
Well, it means we mistake the constant stream of thoughts. The judgments, comparisons, worries, memories, plans. We mistake that for who we really are.
Okay.
The book tackles that famous idea, I think, therefore I am. It suggests that's a core misunderstanding.
How so?
It equates your thinking process with your identity, your being. But Tolle argues your true nature, your being, is something much deeper. It's beyond that incessant mental chatter.
So it's like we're constantly listening to and kind of believing this voice in the head.
Exactly that. There's this near constant internal monologue, sometimes a dialogue.
Right.
And the book points out pretty much everyone has this voice. But the critical insight, the really key thing, is that very few people realize they aren't required to listen to it or, be run by it.
It's like that person you sometimes see on the street, talking animatedly to themselves.
Kinda, yeah. Except for most of us, it's all internal. This voice is always commenting, judging, complaining, rehashing the past, worrying about the future. It doesn't stop.
And that incessant voice pulls us out of the present moment, right? Which is where this whole concept of psychological time comes in. Can you break that down a bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Psychological time is basically the mind's creation. It's what happens when your attention isn't here, but is perpetually pulled somewhere else.
Like where?
Into the past, reliving memories, maybe defining your identity by what happened back then or, projected in the future, worrying about what might happen, chasing future goals, thinking that's where happiness is, anticipating things.
Okay.
The book makes a pretty radical claim here. It says nothing ever happened in the past or will happen in the future.
Wait.
Anything that happened in the now. Anything that will happen in the now. Past and future.
Yeah.
They're presented as concepts, really. Memories, projections, things that only exist as thoughts in this present moment.
Wow. Okay. That really shifts the perspective. So if everything real happens only in the table, now what's the consequence of being constantly lost in this mind chatter and psychological time? What's the cost?
The cost, according to the book, is huge. Identifying with your mind creates what's described as this opaque screen, a screen of concepts, labels, judgments between you and reality itself.
So you're not experiencing life directly.
You're experiencing your thoughts about life, and this creates an illusion of separateness. You feel separate from your deeper self, separate from others, separate from the world around you.
And that leads to problems.
Directly linked, the book says, to experiencing continuous problems, conflict, fear. The mind, which should be just a useful tool for practical stuff, it becomes, it's described as a monster that controls your life when you're completely identified with it.
And this nonstop thinking, this internal noise, the book uses a really strong word for it, doesn't it?
It does. Compulsive thinking. This inability to just stop the mental stream. It's described as an addiction.
An addiction.
Yeah, because you feel powerless to stop it. You feel compelled by it. It really highlights how deep-rooted and involuntary this whole process is for most of us.
Okay. So if being lost in the mind and psychological time is the core problem, where does the suffering, the pain we all feel, actually come from?
The book links mind identification directly to the origin of our emotional pain. Emotions, in this view, are basically the body's reaction to your mind's thought patterns. Okay, so the more strongly you identify with those thoughts, the judgments, the worries, the grievances, the stronger the negative emotional charge becomes in your body.
And it's not just about specific emotions like anger or sadness.
Right.
There's something deeper.
Exactly. The book suggests that underneath all those specific negative feelings, there's a kind of core primordial pain.
Primordial pain.
Yeah, it stems from what Tolle calls the loss of awareness of who you are beyond name and form. It's a deep sense of incompletion, maybe something very close to existential fear, a feeling that something essential is missing, lost.
This sounds like it connects to another really powerful concept from the book, the pain body. What exactly is the pain body?
Right, the pain body. It's described as an energy field made up of accumulated past pain.
Your own pain?
Your own personal history, yeah. Difficult childhood stuff, past hurts, but also potentially collective human pain that we inherit somehow. The book says it lives within your body and psyche.
Yeah, and it acts on its own.
Almost like an autonomous entity, yeah. It wakes up when it's triggered. And then it feeds on more pain, negative thoughts, drama, conflict, any kind of unhappiness. It draws energy from that. It's the living past you carry inside you. Think about how sometimes just a small annoyance can trigger this huge, disproportionate emotional reaction. That might be the pain body getting activated.
Wow. So this pain body is directly contributing to our suffering right now.
Absolutely. The pain you experience now, in the present moment, the book argues, is always some form of non-acceptance, some kind of resistance to what is.
Well, resistance.
Yeah. On the thought level, it shows up as judgment. On the emotional level, is negativity, discomfort, unhappiness, the intensity of your suffering. It's directly proportional to how much you resist the present moment. And that resistance comes from being identified with your thinking mind.
Because the mind wants to escape the now?
Its nature is to avoid the now. So the more you're run by your mind, the more you'll resist whatever is happening and the more you'll suffer.
And fear. Psychological fear, specifically. That's a huge part of this landscape of suffering.
Yes, and it's really crucial to distinguish it from instinctive fear.
What's the difference?
Well, instinctive fear is that automatic reaction to immediate danger. You hear a loud bang, you jump. You see a car speeding towards you, you react. That's biology.
Right, survival.
Exactly. But psychological fear, it's always about something that might happen. It lives in the future, which, remember, only exists as a thought. It's the egoic mind, that shaky sense of self built on past and future constantly feeling under threat. This creates that almost continuous low-grade anxiety many people live with.
Okay, so we've got the problem. Being lost in the mind, lost in time. We've looked at where suffering comes from, resistance, the pain body, fear. So what's the solution the book offers? Where does it point us?
The core teaching, the entire message is right there in the title. The present moment holds the key. It's the doorway to liberation.
The power of now.
Exactly. And that power isn't some abstract thing. It's your presence, your consciousness, when it's free from being totally dominated by thought forms.
And accessing this presence, it connects us to something even deeper. You mentioned being earlier.
Precisely. The book uses the term being to describe, the eternal, ever-present one life, the reality that exists beyond all the temporary forms we see.
Okay.
But crucially, it's also the innermost essence deep within every form, including you. It's accessible now, in this moment, as your deepest self, your true nature.
But you can't understand it with the mind.
No, the mind can't grasp it. You know it, you feel it when the mind is still, when you're fully present. This direct feeling realization of your connection to everything. That's what the book calls enlightenment.
So how do we even begin to access this? What's a practical first step we can take?
The primary step the book suggests is watching the thinker.
Watching the thinker.
Yeah. Instead of being lost in the stream of thoughts, you become the observer of that stream. You listen to the voice in your head, but you don't get caught up in its stories, its judgments. You become the witnessing presence behind it all.
And just doing that changes things.
The book describes this act of watching, this observation, as the entry point. The beginning of bringing in a higher dimension of consciousness presence itself. When you can observe your mind, you're no longer totally trapped in it. You step out of that compulsive stream.
Okay, that makes sense. Another practice the book really emphasizes is being in the body. How does that work?
This is a really powerful way to ground yourself in the now. It means shifting your attention, moving it away from your thinking mind and into the internal energy field of your body.
Feeling the life inside.
Exactly. Learning to feel the aliveness within your hands, your feet, your whole body from the inside out. The book describes the visible physical body as almost like an illusory veil over a deeper reality.
Which is?
An invisible inner body, which is a direct doorway to being. So By inhabiting your body this way, feeling that inner energy, you anchor your consciousness in the present moment. You access that deeper dimension.
And there are physical benefits too.
A book suggests so. Strengthening the immune system, maybe even slowing down aging. There's an analogy about a master being present in their house. It prevents unwanted guests, like illness, from taking over.
How do you start?
A simple way is just using your breath. Feel the breath moving in and out, and let that draw your attention inside the body.
So the now and the inner body, they're described as portals to the unmanifested. What are these portals?
Right, the now is the main portal, the most direct one. But the book points to others too, like paying deep attention to the silence between sounds.
Silence.
Yeah, or the space that allows physical objects to be, that emptiness. These are described as doorways to the unmanifested sail, which is another term for being or, God essence, the source.
So it's not somewhere else.
No, this deeper reality is present right here in the world, accessible through these portals of stillness, space, even just the cessation of thinking. When you achieve that through alert observation or conscious breathing, that creates a portal too.
And a really interesting point the book makes is about love. It says love itself isn't a portal.
That's a critical distinction, yeah. It helps clarify what Tolle means by love. He explains it's not something you do or use to open the door to presence.
So what is it?
Love is what flows through the portal once it's open. It's the natural state that arises, that feeling, that realization of oneness, of deep connection when you're actually in contact with being.
Okay, moving from these core practices to how they actually impact our lives. The book talks a lot about relationships and transformation within them.
Yes, relationships, especially close ones, often become the main stage where the ego and the pain body play out their patterns. Big time.
So how does presence help?
The book suggests presence is the most powerful agent for transformation in relationships. When you stop identifying with your own thinking mind, your own pain body, and crucially, when you stop judging and projecting all that onto your partner,
you create space.
You create space. Space for something beyond the ego's usual needs, demands, conflicts. And this space allows for what the book calls true love, which, unlike egoic attachment rooted in fear and need, is said to have no opposite.
And accepting the partner.
Unconditional acceptance of your partner, just as they are in the present moment, is presented as an incredibly powerful catalyst. It helps break through the ego's limitations on both sides.
The book also touches on the idea that sometimes really intense suffering can actually force people into this state of presence or surrender.
It does. While the path the book lays out is about consciously choosing presence, it definitely acknowledges that sometimes the most profound spiritual awakenings happen because of extreme suffering, loss, disaster.
It breaks you open.
It can be so overwhelming that it literally cracks the shell of the ego, forces an individual into a state of surrender, even if they were initially resisting it completely.
Which brings us to surrender itself, the book's concept of surrender. It isn't about giving up or being passive, is it? That seems important.
Absolutely not. It's vital to get this distinction clear. True surrender, as described in the book, isn't weakness. It's not defeat. It's called the profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life.
Saying yes to what is.
Inwardly, yes. Accepting the present moment unconditionally, whatever it contains. Relinquishing that inner resistance. And this isn't passive resignation, like just lying down and doing nothing. It's an active choice to stop creating more suffering for yourself. And paradoxically, that acceptance often opens the door for positive change that resistance would have blocked.
And it mentions two opportunities, two chances for this surrender.
Yes. The first chance is to surrender to the external reality of the moment. Accept the situation as it is. Then take whatever action is necessary, but do it without inner resistance or negativity.
Okay. And the second chance?
If the external situation is just too painful or impossible to accept right now, like immense loss or maybe unavoidable physical pain, your second chance is to surrender to the internal condition. Meaning you allow the pain, the grief, the fear, whatever emotion is there.
Yeah.
You allow it to be present within you without resisting it, without judging it, without making up a whole story about it in your head.
And what happens then?
By witnessing and embracing that internal state, just allowing it to be, the book says you actually transmute that intense suffering. It transforms into peace, the peace of God, as it's sometimes called.
This idea of surrender and presence, it also ties into a really powerful, maybe slightly unsettling concept. Dying before you die. What's that about?
It might sound intense, yeah. But the book presents it as the secret to realizing your eternal nature. It means letting go, moment by moment, letting go of the false self.
The ego.
That identity built on your past story, your mind's concepts, your roles. It's a continuous process of disidentification from form, from all the temporary aspects of who you think you are.
And why do that?
By consciously letting go of that false self in the death. Now, you realize your true, indestructible reality. The part of you that exists beyond your physical body, beyond birth and death, beyond the mind's fear of death. You realize the essence of who you are cannot die.
Okay, let's bring this full circle then. Why does all of this exploring the mind, suffering, presence, surrender, why does it really matter to you listening right now?
Well, the book is incredibly clear on this. This isn't just abstract philosophy or some kind of lofty spiritual theory. It's fundamentally practical. It's about finding real freedom.
Freedom from what?
Freedom from the constant burden of stress, worry, fear, unhappiness. All the stuff that comes from being lost in thought and trapped in psychological time.
It's about uncovering something you already possess, isn't it?
Absolutely. Tolle uses that parable of the beggar sitting on a box full of gold, begging for pennies.
Right.
You, he suggests, are that beggar. You already have this incredible treasure within you. The radiant joy of being, unshakable peace, freedom from suffering. This whole exploration of the book is about remembering that treasure is there and realizing it's accessible right here, right now.
And the book even gives a pretty profound sense of purpose to this whole individual journey.
It really does. There's that powerful quote early on. You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That is how important you are.
Wow.
And this ultimate purpose, the book argues, isn't something you achieve by striving endlessly in the future. It's fulfilled by accessing being in the now, by taking that inner journey of awakening.
Which leads directly to that challenging but maybe ultimately liberating idea that true salvation isn't something far off.
Exactly. The book suggests true salvation, freedom from fear, suffering, lack, the ego's demands. It isn't a future state. It's not an external reward you have to earn. It is available in this very moment.
How?
Simply by realizing that you are already complete and whole in being. The now isn't just a step on the way to somewhere better. It is the destination. It's the only point of access to that state of wholeness.
So, if we were to try and encapsulate the core invitation of the power of now, what would it be?
I think it's a really profound invitation to shift your fundamental orientation, to move from being lost in the relentless noise and demands of your thinking mind, lost in the illusion of time, to waking up.
Waking up to what?
To the vibrant stillness, the peace, the power that is always available in the present moment. It's about recognizing that the treasure, the freedom, the joy you're looking for, it's not out there somewhere. It's an internal reality already within you, waiting to be accessed just by being present here, now.
These are incredibly deep ideas, really transformative, and they certainly take time and practice to integrate into daily life.
Absolutely. They challenge some of our most fundamental assumptions about who we are, how life works. It's not an overnight switch for most people.
For more resources like this exploration, remember, you can find Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel.
And explore our other discussions, too, where we keep digging into transformative books and concepts like these.
Which really leaves us with a powerful thought to maybe sit with. If the past is just a memory held in the mind, and the future is just an imagination also held in the mind, and the only reality that truly exists is this moment, then what worries, what problems could possibly exist right now, independent of your thinking about them?
That's the core question, really.
If you found these insights valuable, we really encourage you to subscribe. Share this exploration with someone else who might benefit.
Yeah, definitely.
You can also find links in the show notes if you want to purchase The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and explore his teachings further yourself.
It's definitely worth reading directly.
And most importantly, keep thinking critically about these powerful ideas. See how they apply or don't apply to your own experience in the actual moments of your life.